there, all you awesome single ladies out there. Because I didn't marry until I was 46, there were times when I thought, oh my gosh, all the good guys are taken. And I hear that a lot from different women. So just recently, I received an email from a woman who said, where are all the good guys who are committed to honoring a woman and being a provider, the guys who believe in chivalry? Like, where are all these guys at? She said, instead, all I seem to attract are weak, needy men. She said, men who don't have their lives together, men who are used to leaning on other people for their provision. They just don't have their act together. And she said, it's like, where are the strong guys? It doesn't seem like there are any strong men anywhere. And so what do you do if you feel like you're attracting these kind of needy guys, or for a better use of words, maybe they just haven't grown up? Before I go any further, I want to say this is not a man bashing session, right? Because there are really great guys out there, just as there are great women. But there are also women who have their emotional challenges, as I did when I was younger. So today what I want to do is I want to give you some tips and some things to consider if you feel like all that you're attracting are needy guys, guys who don't seem like they have grown up. So the first thing that you want to acknowledge is that there are these guys out there, these emotionally weak guys, the guys who are needy. These guys do exist. There are guys who do not have their act together, just as, like I said, there are women who don't have their act together. Maybe these guys are needy financially, or maybe they are needy emotionally. Maybe they don't know what it's like to care for a family or honor a woman. Maybe they don't believe in chivalry. These guys do exist. In fact, we could probably say that they're everywhere. Just like we could say that there are women who don't have their lives together everywhere. But when you acknowledge this truth, it may help you stop saying that you are attracting these guys, like this woman said, right? Instead, you can start saying they're just out there. And it's kind of like I go out my front door. If they're out there, I might run into one. Right? And that'll give you a little bit more confidence instead of just saying I'm attracting these guys. This can be especially true, not of needy men, but of like scammers when you get on the internet. It's the same kind of principle, right? They're everywhere. They say that 1 in 10 profiles online is from a scammer. And so if you're going to date online, you want to know how to recognize these guys. But it's not that you're attracting them. It's just that they're there. The next tip is that you want to acknowledge that good men exist too, that these guys are everywhere. It would be wrong and inaccurate to say that all the good men are taken, like this woman was talking about. When we do that, what we're doing is we're telling ourselves a lie. So here's a little tidbit, a little fact for you. There are 40 million single available men just on online dating sites. And it would be wrong of us to say every single guy who's on there is bad, right? That there aren't any good men left, and that all that's left are these weak men, needy men, men who are, abusive, whatever, addicted men. It would be wrong to say that because it's simply not true, just as it's wrong to say that all the women online would not make good mates. So you want to keep this all in perspective. According to the statistics, like as far as the amount of people who are online, just think about this. This is like having New York and Los Angeles combined. Excuse me, I should have said there are not 40 million men online. That's the number of users, and a little bit more than half of those are men. So that's a lot of guys, right? This is Los Angeles and like metropolitan New York combined. So I'm just not convinced that all of these guys are bad. The next thing you want to remember is trust that the good men aren't taken, like I was saying. So when I was single, I remember I went on several dates with several men who clearly weren't ready for a relationship. They had some dating experiences that weren't good. One of them, I remember, had just gotten out of a divorce. He was still living at home in the basement with his wife. He just wasn't in a place where he was ready to get married. But here's the thing. If I had decided through those handful of experiences that all the good guys were taken and that there weren't any good men left, then I could have shut my heart down and I would have missed out on a really good guy that I finally did meet and marry. But this is one of the things that we do sometimes, is that we let's say I had a friend in college who did this. She dated a guy named Bob, and then she dated another guy named Bob, and these Bobs didn't turn out to be good, right? And so if she had said, I'm not going to date any more Bobs, maybe she could have missed out on a good Bob, right? So this is what we tend to do is we have a few experiences that aren't good, and then we tend to overgeneralize. So you want to make sure that you're thinking accurately about this, and you're not telling yourself again that there aren't any good guys left, because it's simply not true. You want to think logically. And I understand when you get into an emotional situation and you're hurt, sometimes it's easier to start saying, okay, this is the reality of the situation. There aren't any good guys left, because in a way that's sort of a protective sort of self-defense mechanism, but it's just not accurate and it's not true. And when we start thinking this way, what we're doing is we're really hurting ourselves. So you want to look outside of your own experience for proof that there are some really great men available, because when I look online and I see singles in different places on Facebook, for example, I see awesome single women marrying awesome single men, even in midlife, 30, 40, 50, all the time. It happens. So maybe you know some of your friends, for example, that married an awesome guy over 30, even over maybe 40 or 50 or 60. It happens, right? So you're not the exception to the rule, thinking that there is no good guy out there who could be a good match for you. So I want to encourage you, as we get started in this new year, to change how maybe you're thinking about men, about dating, about the possibilities. So the next thing is you want to be realistic. So like I said, if you're saying, well, all I'm doing is attracting needy men, you want to be realistic about the numbers. Are we talking about 1, 2, 3 guys? Has this happened just once? Like, be realistic about the numbers, because are you exaggerating what's happened in your life out of hurt? Or maybe you had some things happen in your past, like when you were younger, and those things that happened in your past defined your story, and they became a part of your identity. So let's say you say, well, I can't ever get it right because you had an experience when you were young that really hurt you. I can't make good decisions. Good guys aren't attracted to me. And so that's the narrative that you start telling yourself. So the thing is that when we have these narratives, what happens is we start seeing this stuff in our circumstances. Those narratives sort of act as a filter that we start looking through, not only in our own experiences, but when we look at other people's experiences, right? Well, we'll start to notice the things that validate the things that we believe. So you want to be realistic and you want to be truthful to yourself about what's really gone on in your life. The next thing that you want to do is you don't want to waste your time with these guys that you say are needy or weak, or you wouldn't call them men, right? They're not dateable. So if you're meeting these guys who you feel like haven't grown up, who can't take care of a wife, who aren't caring, right? They don't have what it takes to be a good mate. You don't want to waste your time with these guys. You don't want to waste your time thinking, well, I can change them, right? Love's going to conquer all. It's going to be different than with me than it was with these last women that he dated, right? Because the thing is that lots of times by the time we've been into our 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever, we've got patterns, and you're not going to be the person that changes that guy. Those changes have to come on his own, right? He has to decide that he wants to do that. So I wouldn't get involved in a committed relationship with a guy, for example, who has a history of joblessness and he's not willing to work. He hasn't grown up in that way. Don't be thinking that you're going to change him because you love him, right? This is stuff that he needs to change on his own. You may have heard this recently on a podcast. I saw that meme on Facebook and it said, ladies, unless he's wearing diapers, you can't change him, right? That's true. A man's change is a man's job. So I always say that dating and relationships are sort of like having a fence around your yard with a gate. You can't control who comes up to the fence, but you can control who comes through the gate into your yard. So you may be meeting these guys who won't be good mates, but you can keep yourself from getting in relationship with them, from dating them. And again, a lot of that has to do with what you're telling yourself. If you believe that there aren't any good guys left, then you may allow men into your life, into your dating yard that you shouldn't, because you're thinking, well, someone's better than no one. Or if you think, this is as good as it's going to get, or, something else that's not a true narrative, it's going to sabotage you. So you want to pay attention to what you're thinking, right? You deserve that. Thanks everybody for coming out and watching, by the way. The next thing is that you want to ask yourself why you continue to date these guys. If you are saying, all I do is attract these guys who are needy, who aren't responsible, who haven't grown up, right? If you're saying this is all I attract and you get in relationships with them, you want to ask yourself, why am I doing this? Like, why do I continue to allow this to happen? There was a woman, and you may have heard me mention her before. She reached out to me for some coaching and said that she always got involved with guys who were in a bad way, like men who just didn't have their act together. And when I started asking her why, she said, well, I like helping. Which is a great quality, right? To want to help. But then when I asked her what would happen if she said no, she said, well, that's mean. That's not nice. Because I was taught that you're supposed to help. And if you don't help, you're not being a good person. So what happened is she had this narrative going on. I like to help, which is good. And saying no is mean, right? So when a guy comes along who's in a bad way, now she accepts him into her life. So you want to identify, why am I doing this? Another thing that can happen is sometimes women will date men that they're not really the kind of guys that they would really marry, or that they would feel safe with, or that they feel have good character. And the reason that they're doing it is because they feel like they're not worthy of anything more. There was a woman I coached one time, and she told me, because she grew up in a really dysfunctional household and had been abused as a kid, and she just felt really bad about herself, and she'd made some subsequent choices as a result of what she'd grown up with, which I felt so bad for her. But she made some subsequent choices that she felt like disqualified her from getting a really great guy. So she said whenever a guy came along who could have been a good match for her, and a good guy who was marryable and was dateable, she would reject them, because she would reject them before they would reject her, right? And so she always allowed guys in through that gate in her life who she felt like that she actually used these words. She said they were beneath her, right? Because now she feels better about herself. She can be in charge of that relationship and feeling good about who she is, right? So we don't want to allow men into our lives for those kinds of reasons. The next thing is, you want to ask yourself if you really believe that all the good men are taken. So if you, like I said, believe that all of them are taken, you might be tempted to settle for men who won't be good to you or for you. Because if you want to be loved, but you think you have to take what you can get, like I said, well, you can see how that story is going to end. You don't want to get involved with men who, you know, down the road, deep down, they're not the kind of guys that you want to have a relationship with. So if you really want to get married, if you're saying, I want this year to be different, I want to find a relationship with a guy who's going to love me and adore me and treat me really well, you want to pay attention to how you're spending your time and who you are allowing into your life. Sometimes we say we're ready for a relationship, but really maybe we've got some unresolved hurts or whatever. And so we're allowing people into our lives that we shouldn't. Because when it really starts to get serious, maybe then it's kind of scary. And so it's easier to allow people into our lives who we know aren't really going to be a good match for us. So if you want this year to be different, I encourage you to think about the types of men that you've allowed into your life in the past, or maybe even who you haven't allowed in, like the woman that I told you about who said that she would reject the good guys, right? So I hope these tips have been helpful to you. I hope you're encouraged by them. If you haven't yet and you've heard about More Than Matching, head on over to morethanmatching.com. It's a new program by Single Over 30 to help you meet that special person. And I'm super excited about it, because what we wanted to do, what my team and I wanted to do, is we wanted to create something for you so that it's in between like online dating. Anybody can get in. It's a low price point, and there's a lot of scammers in there, and a lot of people who aren't serious about a relationship, right? And there's not background checks and all that. And over here, you've got matchmaking, which I just got an email from a matchmaking company yesterday, and they wanted I want to say it was like $5,000 for like 7 matches, right? Who's got that? A lot of people don't. So we wanted to make something in here. So it's for people who are looking for a committed relationship, who want to get married. They want to find that special person. There's background checks. There's coaching. There's one-on-one coaching. There's group events. There's group coaching. It's all in one program. So this is especially for you. I'm so excited about it and about the development of it. So head on over to morethanmatching.com and set up a time on the calendar, and I will personally talk with you and talk with you about the program and see if it might be a good fit for you. There's no obligation or anything like that. And the price point is really, really good. It's for everybody who doesn't want to be here or here. All right. Happy New Year, everybody. Love ya. See you next time. Bye bye.